Sweet.
Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show. We are live, and today we have a handful of things going on, as well as some things coming up. So today we're going to be recapping the Badgers' loss to Penn State, their upcoming matchup with Iowa. We are going to be joined by Brandon from the Hawkaholics Podcast. They reached out to us. They're a big fan of our show. Brandon is also a Bucks fan and a Packers fan, so he, though he cheers for Iowa for college, and I think he's a Dodgers fan for baseball, he does cheer for some Wisconsin teams, and they are fans of the show. So we are doing a crossover with them today, so they're going to join us, and then we are going to join them later on this evening on their show as well. So looking forward to that. Also, this coming Friday night, the three of us that you see on screen here will be having our Badgers basketball primer. We're doing that on its own, so we don't have to try to split it up and take a couple really, really long Wednesday shows. We're just going to give the Badgers primer its own thing, and we'll be doing that Friday night at 8 o'clock. So join us live for that as well. We're going to be going through a lot of information and some of our thoughts on the upcoming season, so we're very excited for that. And just a heads up, I know I mentioned this on the Packers show last night, which if you didn't catch that, last night, we recapped the Packers' win over the Jaguars and previewed their matchup with the Lions. I will not be here next week. My wife's having surgery next week, so I am taking next week off. So I will not be here, but Jake and Mike will be here. And I'll still have my notes sent over to Jake, so you'll still have my thoughts on next week's games. But we're going to jump in, and we're going to start with the defensive side of the ball for Wisconsin and Penn State. So, Jake, I'm going to start with you. What did you take away from the defense against Penn State?
First of all, I am going to continue to call them the Jackquires after that misspelling by Bryant. They will forever be known as the Jackquires. And also Nissan Nixon.
Yep.
Yeah,
Andres Carlson.
Yeah, Andres Carlson.
I like Nissan Nixon. That's my favorite. That's
I
good.
made a video of that last year where I put a Nissan on the screen as he said it.
Oh, man. So, starting on defense, defensive line. So, I have some pretty, I would say, out of line opinions on this, but I thought the run D was actually really good in the first half. There was maybe a run here or there. But overall, I thought the defense as a unit, and I know I'm supposed to focus on the D-line, I thought the defense as a unit played spectacular in the first half. To hold them out, give us the lead. But I said this to you guys, and you told me to say it on the show, so I put it in my notes right away. The run D in the second half, they got saved by the backup quarterback. His ability to run the football, run that option, really saved the game for Penn State. Really gave them another element to the offense that they were missing, and it changed everything in this football game. As my cat is tickling my foot, so I apologize for that as I jumped. People are probably wondering what happened. So I do want to say that I think that some of the Badgers defensive linemen need some shout-outs. I think that Neal, Lane, and Hills, particularly those three, made some good plays. They weren't just filling gaps, but they were penetrating gaps, forcing runs to bounce out to the outside, doing a good job in the run game that way. But overall, we just didn't have the athletes up front on the D-line to run with that quarterback. He's pretty fast. He was outrunning some of our linebackers and some of our DBs. In the pass rush area, 0 sacks, 0 hits. We had 2 hurries from Hills. I forgot to say this. In the run game, we did have 2 run tackles from Barton, Neal, and Hills. And we had 2 misses from Hills, 1 miss from Barton, and 2 run stops from Kurt, Neal, and Hills individually. So, I mean, they were making plays. The D-line is growing up in front of our eyes. They're not just playing gap responsibility anymore. They're actually penetrating, like I said before, and they're forcing themselves into the game plan, onto your screen, making plays. So I think the D-line is improving, and they're definitely the most improved area of this team, in my opinion.
I would definitely agree with that assessment that they're the most improved group. I have been somewhat pleased over the 3-game win streak and the loss to Penn State with the improvement of the linebackers. I think they're getting better kind of slowly but steadily. So looking at it, Jaheim Thomas was defending the run really well in short yardage situations. Leon Lowry had a good tackle versus a scramble on a 2nd and 16 in the second quarter. And then him and Pius had a good pressure on that 3rd and 12 play right after that. Jake Chaney had a sack during the 2-minute drill before halftime. Looking at the second half, Jaheim Thomas got a run stop. Wisconsin was down 1 point. I mean, the linebackers, they did okay overall. Now, you brought up the mobile quarterback, and I told you to say it because I also had thoughts, and I didn't say this to you guys because I wanted to save it for the show. The mobile quarterback's effect on the linebackers is it forces them to play more laterally, side to side, and less downhill.
Yeah.
It's much harder to play as a downhill attacking style linebacker against a mobile quarterback who can jump side to side, who's going to pull the ball down, try to run for the edges, than it is to defend a pocket presence quarterback who's going to just stand in the pocket and try to pick apart your defense that way. Now, I will say Drew Aller obviously has more arm talent than the backup, but the backup has a different skill set. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
It sure does. If you're a Packers fan, it absolutely sounds familiar. So it's just that different skill set presents different strategy, different strategy, different ways of attacking. So for me, looking at the linebackers, the team total missed 10 tackles. The linebackers only had 2. The Badgers did make 22 run stops. The defense was holding their own in the first half. 8 of those 22 came from the linebackers, 2 from Leon Lowry, and 4 by Jaheim Thomas. So, I mean, a solid game for Leon Lowry, a really good game for Jaheim Thomas, in my opinion, but just one of those things where you're facing a top 5 team, and the second half felt like it. So, Mike, what did you take away from the defense?
Yeah, the first point I was going to make is that this game literally was a tale of 2 halves. I mean, Jake talked about it. You just talked about it. I still think at the end, I'm going to go into it, but I still think at the end of the day, this defense gave up. I'm going to say 21 points instead of the 28 for obvious reasons. We'll jump into that. But I still think that was good enough to at least win this game, given how many opportunities we had. I know this wasn't maybe the best game defensively, but I still think 21 points should be enough to at least be there to compete at the end of the game, or at least have a shot at it. So I'm just going to get that out right away. But yeah, it wasn't wasn't the best outing. But I mean, your regular guys. Hunter Wohler showed up, 11 total tackles. Nizer for Cureen is putting together he put together another good week, 8 total tackles. I mean, another one of the big things I want to call out, Penn State, they're one of the best teams in the country when converting on third down. That was their calling card in the second half. They definitely showed that. I guess one of the big things I wanted to point out is that we did hold Tyler Warren to 7 catches to only 46 yards. We didn't give up any deep plays against him. That was one of the biggest call outs as we were heading into this game. That being said, we still gave up, I think it was 246 yards passing. And that second half, it was very timely. Quarterback, we did have to make some adjustments, whether it was with the linebackers or whatever. But that backup quarterback was really good. He did exploit us in a couple of ways, and just getting those timely conversions and those timely third downs. And I believe at the end of the game, Penn State time of possession wise was 10 to 12 minutes above Wisconsin, I want to say. So in that second half, they definitely consistently put some of those drives together, mainly in the fourth quarter too, mind you. And I guess like after that pick 6, that's kind of when it really tried to down spiral a little bit. Could even be before that too, but no, I think the secondary really didn't play that bad of a game. As I said, I think we were still in a position to win this with the amount of opportunities we had. So this is, I don't take too much away from this from the secondary. Preston Zachman, another good game, 8 total tackles. Him and Hunter Wohler played the whole game. Austin Brown, 49 snaps, 8 total tackles. Very, very, very good on his end. And Rico didn't even register in the score sheet because once again, No one likes to throw to him. I think there might have been one pass thrown his way the whole game. So, you still don't hear much from him, even when you're playing against a third-ranked team in the country. So, he's still doing his job, and nobody wants to screw with him yet.
I'm gonna pull it up because I'm curious to see if he was targeted at all.
I think he was targeted one time. I think I remember.
I do remember the one time. I remember seeing his mug on one of those throws. That was by him. But he didn't register like a tackle or anything.
He was targeted 3 times and gave up 2 catches for 4 yards.
Yeah, so there you go.
Okay, well, the other ones weren't very memorable, obviously.
Yeah.
Also, happy birthday, James.
Yeah. Looking at it, I don't. It's like it hurts because it is not obviously not the result we were hoping for. But my score from the head last week was 27-16, so it's like, dang it! Like, I was bummed that I was close, but like that's also like, all right, like I said something smart, but I don't like that it was to the detriment of our team. But it is what it is. And Mike, like you said, the fact that 21 points were allowed by the defense and not 28. I mean, the way that all three of us talk, the defense is not bad. It's not bad.
The defense was playing really good football in the first half, man.
Yeah, I mean, after that first possession, like they hunkered down, man. Like 7 points at half is very good. You're playing the third-ranked team in the freaking country. Okay, if you hold them 7 points, you're doing something right. So, unfortunately, some timely throws. We didn't get a good start to the second half.
I mean, we can play a hypothetical game here where, let's say the pick 6 doesn't happen, and that drive they end up getting a field goal, and the Badgers end up losing 21-16. Like I really can't imagine a lot of people having a lot to complain about.
Yeah, I would sting, but it wouldn't be as bad as it is right now. Yeah. Even though it's still bad right now.
Obviously, it's better than losing like 52-10.
Right.
So I mean, not that there's moral victories in losing, but if we're looking at and looking for progress, I think you can see that.
Yeah.
All right, Jake, how'd you feel about special teams?
Well, got to give a shout out to our man Bertrams. He was really good again. 5 for 257, a 47 net average, and he had 2 inside the 20. Not really much to talk about in the kick return game. Vinny had 1 kick return for 16 yards. But Vakos, man, 7 points on the day. 2 for 2 on field goals, made 1 from the 30 to 39 range and 1 from 50 plus. I believe he tied a school record for 50 plus yard field goals. And 1 for 1 from extra points. So I have no complaints on special teams at all. They didn't hurt us. They helped us. They were carrying us for a little bit there, honestly. So all good in my book.
Atticus Bertrams with the most exciting play of the game on a almost disaster play of the game.
Yeah.
MVP.
Wanted to see it. I mean, obviously you don't want like a broken play to happen, but for him to have the awareness to be like, oh, I can re-kick this. Oh, can also take off for the first down. Let's do that. I like that idea better.
Actually, thank you for reminding me. I forgot to write that down. The Penn State coach, James Franklin, actually called him the MVP of Wisconsin's team in the first half.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, we've been saying that as a joke.
The whole year. The whole year.
Yeah.
Mike, what did you take away from the offensive side of the ball?
I'm going to keep it on Atticus Bertrams because, fun fact, he was the second leading rusher on the team this past Saturday. He had 1 carry for 15 yards. So, that actually increased our average per run to I think 3.0 for the whole night. So, hey, thank you, Atticus. We appreciate you. But no, you take his 1 run out. We are at about 2.5 yards per carry. Obviously, that's not really going to cut it. Tyree Walker, 22 carries, 59 yards. Darian Dupree, 3 carries, 3 yards. My guy, Katie Akamelli, did not get a chance to get on the field, which, as you guys know, I am pretty upset about that. I still will be pretty upset about that. I wish he would get more. He would get these opportunities. Between all of us right now, I think the way it's going, he's going to be transferring out after this year because I think he deserves an opportunity somewhere to get 10 to 15 carries a game. I'm just calling it right now.
It's very, that's kind of how he reminds me.
Yeah, it is kind of upsetting because I get it. I mean, we weren't running the ball that well anyway, but this is a guy that can get out in space and, make plays for you. Even if, if he can do it with his feet, man, kind of, get him a swing pass or something. Get him in space, let him do his thing, and then try and go from there. Running it in between the tackles, unfortunately, this was not the night that we couldn't. This was a night that we couldn't get it done. So, the one thing I will call out from the running back room was the touchdown play that Tommy Walker had. I'm going to give a shout out to Jackson Aker, who absolutely murdered a dude on the goal line. I sent that to you guys in the group chat. Obviously, I was so pumped up to see that. I watched it a couple times, even after the game. He just absolutely blew up the dude. So kudos to Jackson Aker for that. But yeah, that's about it. It's a we got to improve from this. Obviously, the last 3 games prior to that, we were looking good. A little bit of a step back here, but we're also playing a team that's, again, ranked 3rd in the country. So it definitely wasn't going to be easy by any means. I still think we got the big boys up front that can get the job done to close out the year. But yeah, we got to make it happen.
So I have some interesting thoughts on the passing game, I think. So the first half, Braden Locke was throwing the ball pretty well. I think he only had 2 bad throws. He had 1 underthrow, and then he had the miss on 2nd and goal where Aker could have had the touchdown. But I didn't think he made any bad decisions, which is good because that was a big thing that we talked about last week. It was a big thing when Jake and I joined Scary Alvarez, the decision making. So for him to not have any bad decisions, that's something. 4 drops in the first half is a lot to overcome. Yeah. And the Badgers, to their credit, they did kind of overcome some of those drops. But those 4 drops did combine to contribute to 3 drives that ended in punts. So that's tough. Then you get to the second half. Locke was kind of put in a bad spot to be in 3rd and 14 due to some conservative play calling in our opinions. That led to a 3rd and 14, throwing from his own end zone and threw one right into a defender's chest. Obviously, that's a tough spot to be in. I did like seeing Braden Locke rebound from that to have 2 really good throws on a 3rd and 6 play to Vinny Anthony and an absolute dime to CJ Williams. So It was good to see him respond positively from that. My bottom line on the passing game is coming out conservative was kind of a recipe for playing to not lose instead of playing to win, in my opinion. I do think Phil Longo called a great first half. I had no complaints at all with the first half. The first half was great as far as play calling goes. And as far as the conservative nature of the play calling, I will take it with a grain of salt because I do think that field position played a part in the conservative play calling. This is one of those things that after I stepped back from the game and I'm like, why are they being so conservative? And then it's like, okay, they're inside the other team's 20-yard line, inside the other team's 10-yard line. I kind of understand being a little conservative because you don't want things like the pick 6 to happen. And then they ended up happening anyways because you got behind the sticks. So that's just kind of a snowball situation there. And it starts with field position.
Yeah. Looking
at Braden Locke on the day, 15.4% of his passes were dropped. 15%. Yeah. That's not great. You look at his average depth of target, 7.3 on the season. It had been around the 9 to 10 area, so maybe a couple more deep shots would have helped keep the defense honest, and it could have potentially helped the run game. Just a thought. Now here, I'm gonna pull a switcheroo on you guys. So Braden Locke was 3 for 10 in play action, which is pretty bad, right?
Yeah, statistically, yeah.
Statistically. However, this is why context is important. 3 of the 4 drops that the Badgers had came on play action passes.
Yeah.
So Braden Locke in play action should have actually been 6 for 10, and Locke was not pressured on any of those 10 play action passes. So I think the Badgers might have something there. If you can play the number 3 team in the country, run play action, and not have your quarterback under pressure in any of those situations, they might have something there.
That almost plays to the tune of we don't have the playmakers to run the air raid offense, like people were saying before. I do think that we've seen some flashes from CJ Williams at times. Vinny Anthony looks like he might be the best wide receiver on this football team, and Will Pauling is non-existent in most games. Tretch has had moments. I mean, we really need more talent at the wide receiver room. I know some is coming next year, with Eugene Hilton and some of the other boys, but yeah, we really need to make an emphasis on that this next offseason.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, we've seen the Badgers running the ball a lot better during the 3-game winning streak. Like that sets up play action, and for them to have good play action even in a game where the running game wasn't great.
Yeah.
The play action game could be something they can look at to do potentially more.
Agreed.
You mentioned Vinny Anthony. He had 7 receptions on 10 targets, 8.8 average depth of target against him. He was 1 for 1 on contested catches. He had 68 yards total. Solid game, no drops. Had 3 receptions for first downs. So Vinny Anthony, pretty solid game. Yeah. Will Pauling, 8 receptions on 13 targets. He had 2 drops. He was 2 for 3 on contested catches. He had 79 yards. If he was 10 for 13, that would have been absolutely great.
Yeah.
So, Jake, what were your thoughts on the offense?
O-line. So I'm gonna get the good out first. I'm gonna do it opposite how I usually do. 0 sacks, 0 quarterback hits, only giving up 7 hurries, 7 pressures. That's not bad, honestly, when you're thinking about I was coming into this Penn State game and I was like, how the hell does Penn State always have one elite pass rusher every single year? They just slap a number 11 on them with a blue jersey or a white jersey with that white helmet, and you're good this year. So 0 sacks, 0 hits, 7 hurries is really not bad. I'm not upset about the pass blocking. What I am upset about is how our offensive guards were getting absolutely manhandled in the run game.
Yeah.
A lot of our running is zone, and a lot of our running is gap responsibility, right? Gap running and zone running. And we try to pull guards, and I gave credit to Huber. I don't remember if that was last week or the week before, but I gave credit to Huber because he was doing really good at pulling and opening up big gaps for Talley Walker and the rest of the running back room, mainly Talley Walker because he was getting most of the carries, to get big time gains. Huber was getting crushed last week. It was not pretty. Not for 1 second was the run game pretty. I had a feeling it was going to be kind of an old school Big Ten game. I kind of feel that way about Iowa and Wisconsin after looking at some stats at Iowa. Oh,
yeah.
Can't wait to tell Brandon my opinion on Iowa. I'm sure he's excited for me to say it too. But overall, the offensive line, we need to get better at getting dirty, in my opinion, in the run game. We do a lot of nuance, misdirection kind of stuff. But there's just something to be said. The good teams, when they need to run the damn ball, they're saying, that old school mentality like we used to have at Wisconsin. Listen, we're bigger, we're stronger than you. We're going to hand it to that guy back there, and we're going to gain 4 yards. You cool with that? I want some of that. I need some more of that in my life. I think that would help the offense overall. And after hearing that play action numbers, I actually think that would help this offense tremendously. I would love to see us run a play action and have Vinny Anthony running a crosser across the field. I think that could be something that could work really well. What happened to tight ends at Wisconsin? We used to always have good tight ends at Wisconsin. Now we kind of have meh tight ends at Wisconsin. Yeah. I know we just flipped an in-state kid from where the heck was he going?
Oconomowoc.
Michigan State.
He was going to Penn State, right?
Yeah.
Michigan State.
Michigan State. That's what it was.
Yeah, and he was going. He goes to Oconomowoc High School.
Yep. And now he's going to be a Badger. So I would really like us to get back to some old school. Give me a tight end. Let's run the ball a little bit. I do like the option that we could spread it out if we need to. That's something that's beautiful. I love that for us. But I'm really looking forward to the days when the Badgers can get down to the nitty gritty and run the football like some madmen like they did in the old days.
I would have liked to see just a quick point, just overall. The one thing that I also noticed is like with the RPO stuff, you didn't see Locke ever pull it at all. It was all like handoffs every time. There was no fakes, and he pulled it. I'm wondering if that was maybe simply because did Longo maybe not trust him to keep it himself because of the Penn State's athleticism, or was it something else? Because Penn State had some dudes, man. Like they absolutely beat the shit out. I'll say it. They beat the shit out of us. Like
in the second half,
on the front line. Yeah, like they took it to a whole new level in the second half. First half, I thought we got some good looks for first half for sure. Obviously we had the touchdown. There was a couple good looks. Tawi, he had a couple runs. He had 12-yard run, 10-yard run. Yeah, we did have open looks, but then second half is just another story. We couldn't do anything on the ground really for the most part. But yeah, the one thing I noticed is that with those RPOs, I don't recall anyway. Braden ever pulling it and just taking it himself one bit just to keep the defense honest. Now again, I don't know if that's because maybe Longo got in his head a little bit, say, hey, no, don't do that because you're going to get crushed or what. But that was just something I wanted to call out there that I would have maybe liked to see at least try it, see what happens. If it doesn't work, move on. But yeah, that's all.
Honestly, I think this game potentially was close enough that they weren't really in a place where they had needed to try and see what happens. I think they were still just trying to do what works at that point. I think if they had gotten down big, that they might have done a little bit more experimental stuff, a little more let's try this and see what happens.
Yeah.
Not that you can do that in a close game, but right. Alrighty. So we're going to move on from Penn State. We are going to move into the Iowa game. We are going to welcome in Brandon from the Hawkaholics Podcast. Brandon, you and I have corresponded a lot. Got a lot of messages from the show page from you. We've been talking a lot, and you invited us to join your show. We've made it a crossover, so I think it's going to be interesting, like the post that I made this morning, that we will have an Iowa fan's perspective on the Badgers, and then tonight on the Iowa show, they will have Badger fans' perspectives. So we're going to start on the side of Wisconsin's defense against Iowa's offense, and Mike, I'll give you the floor first to kind of let Brandon get an idea of kind of what we're looking for the Badgers defense against his Iowa Hawkeyes offense.
I kind of look at this as like the preview versus like Rutgers sort of. They have the stud running back that can obviously do it all, right? And to my understanding, you got Brandon Sullivan starting this weekend. A little experienced. He's coming from Northwestern. He's got 8 starts under his belt. And Wisconsin is familiar with him. We have faced him before. So, but I still, at the end of the day, I still expect the Badgers to pretty much load up the box and see what we can do there. Try and stop Caleb Johnson as much as we can. He's got over 1,000 yards rushing this year for a reason. Absolute stud. So I think we got to do whatever we can. I think just to load up the box and still try to make Brandon Sullivan throw the ball, because at the end of the day, I personally think our secondary is the best part of our defense. And I would say, hey, throw it. Go against our secondary, see what we can do. So I think we got to do everything we can. It starts and ends with Caleb Johnson. I know Luke Lachey, the tight end, or I think, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Lachey.
Yeah, Lachey. Okay, he's good as well in his own right, the tight end spot. I'm sure he's going to get a couple looks as well. But I just think it starts and ends with Caleb Johnson. The Badgers defense has to do everything they can to slow his ass down if we want to have a shot to win this.
So I'm just going to jump in because my notes are all centered on the run game for Iowa as well. Yeah. They average 327 yards a game. 204 of them are rushing yards. That's 62.5% of their offense, and 62% of their plays are run plays. So they are who they are.
That's right.
And I'm going to agree with Mike. It's stack the box and dare them to throw. So that's where I'm at with the defense. Jake, do you have thoughts on the Badgers defense against Iowa's offense?
Yeah, so just to continue on the run game, they average 5.6 yards per rush. That's insane. You want to know what makes it even more insane? They average 5.5 yards per pass attempt. They average more yards per rush than they do pass attempt.
That's kind of wild.
Wow. Yeah, I wish I would have caught that.
That's insane. They throw the ball, like Tyler said, a bunch, or run the ball a bunch. They don't throw the ball a bunch. They're 121st ranked in amount of passes they throw per game. And I just want to shout them out on this. Iowa does not hurt themselves on the offensive end. They are number 1 in the country for fewest amount of penalties per game on the offensive end of the football. So they run the damn ball. You know what they're going to do. They know that you know what they're going to do, and they still do it.
That's right.
That's Iowa football.
All right, so Brandon, I appreciate you
Yeah.
hopping on with us and wearing the Packers hat to try to soften the blow a little bit.
The best, man.
You have the opposite perspective now. So you're looking from the Iowa Hawkeyes offensive perspective at the Badgers defense. So what are you looking for from Iowa's offense against the Badgers defense?
I really want to see Sullivan pass. That's the one thing that I didn't really get to see last week. He didn't really pass the ball much, and I don't think he has an arm strength like McNamara did. But McNamara is on concussion protocol, so there's nothing we can do about that. So I kind of want – I would say, yes, stick with the run. We do have wide receivers, but like I said, with McNamara, they haven't really gotten a lot of looks. I'd say our best wide receiver is, as currently, because our freshman is out with a lower body injury. Seth Anderson, somebody you should look forward to, might be a sneaky come up this weekend. He hasn't really gotten much views this season or catches, but I think he was supposed to be preseason. He was supposed to be a factor. I like I said, I really want to see him pass the ball. Like, I've seen them run enough. They're going to run. We are who we are, but I still want to see Sullivan pass. That it's just until I see him pass, I don't know who we are besides run the ball. Like, I want 50-50. We have an RPO quarterback. He can move. That's one thing that Iowa football has been. When they're on, they usually have a mobile quarterback. When they have a dude who likes to stand still in the pocket, just stare and look around and then get himself hurt, then we're dog shit. But like, I just want to see something different. I just want to see what Sullivan can do. But I'm going to tell you right now, guys, he's going to run, and you better watch out for him. You better have eyes on him, not just Johnson, but you need to have eyes on him and Lachey. And one thing about our offense is we like to do this thing where the tight end will go maybe 5 yards and over to the sideline, and here you go. That's an out route. We like to do out routes. So, and you guys have a good secondary, so that kind of worries me a bit because right now I've never seen Sullivan throw a deep ball. So that's really all we got for our offensive game.
So looking at it, we just had this conversation with Penn State. The ability as a quarterback to run, it does present more problems for the defense. Now, going into it, knowing that you're going to be facing that makes it a little bit easier to game plan it for the entire week, as opposed to finding out at halftime, like, okay, we're playing a different quarterback than we just played. And it's almost like having to have a separate game plan. So being able to prepare for the mobile quarterback hopefully should give the Badgers a little bit better of a chance of defending it. So, Jake, what are you looking for from special teams?
Special teams. So I wrote down one thing because I thought it was actually pretty funny. Opponents are converting only 69% of field goals versus Iowa. Dude, I'm telling you, the 69s just find us, Tyler. They just find us.
Facts.
Honestly, obviously, we're going to need to make our kicks. I have no worries about Bertram's. That guy has been a stud all year. He'll probably be first team All Big Ten for punter. I haven't checked the stats of anybody else. I just know how good Bertram's has been. On average, he's getting at least 2 inside the 20 every week, no matter where he freaking punts from. The guy can punt from our goal line, and it might go to the 20-yard line on the other side. I will say Iowa fans have an idea what it's like to have a really good punter. Guy's a stud. Plays for the Bears. I was a little upset he was on the Bears.
Tory Taylor, right?
Yeah. Yep. He's pretty good. And the return game, we don't really do much with it anyways. We maybe have 1 or 2 returns a week, but just don't fumble the ball.
So I was going to ask you about that, Brandon. How are you guys doing on special teams in the absence of Tory Taylor?
Well, we have a pretty good kicker. He looks like he's 12, but he's in Drew Stevens. He's not a bad kid. He's very, very nice. I've met the kid several times. He's good. He can make his kicks. Like, I have no issues with that. Reese Dakin, he's the second guy from Australia. He's not old like Tory Taylor was. I believe Tory Taylor was like 21 when he came in. So, and I know Reese is like 18, 19 right now. So that we got that pipeline going for us. And he played Australian football. So if you've ever get a chance to look that up, it's pretty sick. He's been good with hang time and putting the ball in the proper areas. Now, there's somebody that you guys need to be aware of. I don't know if you saw who won the special teams player of the week for, I believe it was the Big Ten. Caden Weechen took one to the house last week against Northwestern, and I swear to God he was out of bounds, but if you look closer, he wasn't. So thank God for that. That is somebody you need to watch out for. So yeah, just that would be my special teams analysis. Just watch out for Caden, and we never miss when it comes to field goals. I mean, we've I wouldn't say Mr. Automatic like McManus, but
Hey.
knock on wood for that one, by the way, for this week, and hope we don't have to use him like that.
No.
But so it's just Iowa's had really good success with kickers, and I can't remember the last time Iowa's had a bad kicker. So
Good for you.
Yeah, that must be nice.
yeah,
Looking at it, I pulled up Big Ten punting stats, which is a really kind of a sick thing to type into Google. Reese Dakin does have the most punts and the most punting yards in the Big Ten, so that's good. Atticus Bertram's is 4th in the Big Ten in average, and Dakin is 7th. So some decent punters in this game. But that is a good call out on the heads up on the return man. That is good to know.
Are we gonna have a punter off right now? Is that what we're gonna
Oh
do?
man, I
cannot wait.
End up being like a 13-10. Oh man, we'll get the score predictions in a minute here. We're gonna flip to the other side now and go to the Badgers offense against Iowa's defense. So Mike, I'm gonna go back to you. What are you looking for in the Badgers running game against Iowa's defense?
So, I mean, I'm just looking at Iowa's schedule, who they've all played and what have teams done to really score on them. I'm looking at this looking at the Michigan State game. It looks like it was a healthy balance of both run and pass. They rushed for over 200 yards. Again, Michigan State rushed for over 200 yards. They passed for over, I think it was 250. So a nice healthy balance. That's something I know we're going to have to do, and not maybe run it 50 times against Iowa, because Iowa has a stud defense. You look there, it starts with their All-American linebacker, Jay Higgins. I mean, this dude had 14 tackles in one game 2 weeks ago against Michigan State. And Nick Jackson was the other one that caught my eye as well. So Iowa's got some stud defensive players, the linebacking room. Obviously, you'll be talking about it more. But, no, I still think we have to establish a run game in some capacity at the same time. Braden Locke's got to limit mistakes. As a team, we need to limit mistakes against Iowa for sure. So I expect Tawi Walker to still get 15 to 20 carries for sure. I really, really, really would love Katie Akamelli to be a part of this game, as you guys know, as I just talked about. But I expect Darian Dupree to be involved in some capacity on the swing passes and stuff along those lines too, just to spread things out a little bit to see if we can catch some of their secondary off guard a little. But I think we have to have a healthy balance on both sides in order to win this game. Otherwise, it's going to be a rock fight essentially, and that 10-3 game potentially could happen. I'm not ruling that out.
Yeah.
So for me, looking at the passing game, you brought up the Michigan State game for Iowa. I too went and looked at that game. They allowed 468 yards in that game. Yeah. And 256 of those were passing yards. So their defense is good, but not impenetrable. For me, I'm just really looking at Braden Locke. I need him to be better in the intermediates, the 10 to 19 yard throws. He's fine under 10, and he's good enough on deep balls to call them. But last week being 3 for 10 on 10 to 19 yard passes, and there only being one drop in that range. So essentially you're talking 4 for 10, and that's where the pick 6 happened. That to me is where he needs the most improvement. So the intermediate, that's where I'll be watching Braden Locke. Jake, what are you looking for from the offensive line?
Yeah, so I looked at rushing yards and passing yards for defense. I looked at the rushing yards for the offense, as this is going to be a game where the line of scrimmage is going to be really, really vital. Iowa is number 22 at 111 rush yards allowed per game. That's very good. That's national rank. They give up 3.8 yards per carry, and they average 5.6 yards per carry on offense. So, again, the line of scrimmage is going to be vital in this game. And I found this very interesting. Iowa's record after wins is 1-3. They have losses to Iowa State, Ohio State, Michigan State, and I told Tyler for 1 week we are going to be called Wisconsin State just so we can join that trend of losing to teams called State.
All right, we're going to go back to Brandon. Now,
Yes.
Brandon, you can give us the thoughts on how Iowa's defense goes against the Badgers' offense.
Well, sadly, but good for you guys. We are not the same defense we were last year. If that were the case, then I would say this is going to be a short and sweet little preview because I would tell you you're going to get destroyed. However, a lot of things that have taken over the Hawks, especially the secondary. The secondary was our bread and butter last year. However, this year, there's been a lot of balls that are thrown deep. That is what's been getting us, the long ball. Happened at Iowa State, happened at Michigan State and Ohio State. However, we still have studs on our secondary. Quinn Schulte, safety position, and the one guy I'm going to warn you guys about, and I'm pretty sure you've looked this up, Sebastian Castro.
Yeah.
That man is a freak. He's going to be in the NFL, and I would steer clear with him. If you throw his way, it's over, man. He's going to catch it. Or if you try to run his way, he's going to take your head off. I wish our defensive line was as stacked and as good as it used to be, but they still get the job done. It's going to be a typical Iowa-Wisconsin battle. It's just going to be a war in the trenches. I'm not too worried about Locke. I mean, Locke, I'm sure, throws the ball decent amount of times, but I know who you guys are, and you know who we are. So that's the one thing I'm going to be looking for. I'm hoping Locke passes, but it's not going to be a guarantee interception or a guaranteed tip or anything like that. So I truly think that this is going to be a wild game, especially in the trenches.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the deep ball being a possibility that's going to play really well into something that I talk about in just a minute. But it's interesting to see. Honestly, we kind of view each other's teams similarly, where we understand that we want to run the ball, and we understand that the quarterback's maybe not the most trustworthy throwing.
They leave some to be desired.
Yeah, that's
Facts.
we can say it that
Facts.
way. So both playing with backup quarterbacks this week, which is why I had no sympathy for Penn State when theirs went out. Obviously, for the player, we don't want injuries to happen. But if the Badgers would have won that game, I would not have let that shit slide. If they were going to be like, "Ooh, they were playing with their backup quarterback," like we haven't been in the first quarter and against Alabama. So, got a little bit of backup quarterback battles going on here. But Brandon, I'll go to you first. So you're the guest here, so we'll let you go first on the X Factor. Who is your X Factor player in the Iowa game against Wisconsin?
Do you want both sides of the ball, or does it matter?
You pick whichever one stands out the most to you as who affects the outcome.
Yeah.
Brendan Sullivan. I want to see if he's the real deal.
That makes sense. Mike, who is your X Factor?
I got the offensive line, man. We have to make I think we have to make a statement this week. We have to clean up that mess from last week, and we have to go into Iowa and into a very hostile environment and make a statement up front and not get pushed around again like we did last week.
All right, Jake, who's your X Factor?
Mine's going to be Phil Longo for this reason. I got really upset towards the end of that game, especially after the pick six with the conservative play calling. I want to point out third downs. I talked about third downs a couple of times this year. Iowa's very good on third downs. They only allow 34% of third down conversions. That's 34th in the country. And Wisconsin, being conservative, could come back to bite them in the ass, just like it did against Penn State. Listen, if you have your goddamn foot on the gas, don't take your goddamn foot off the gas. You push that shit farther down to the floor. I'm so sick and tired of the conservative play calling. We're hurting ourselves with it, man. If you're going to go get it, go get it. Every once in a while, Longo, he puts together a string of drives. I'm just like, holy shit, man. Is this
Dude,
what we
the
see
first
now?
half was awesome.
Yeah.
And then he goes on a stretch of like 4 or 5 in the second half or the first half or a string of any half. And he just goes on a string of drives. And I'm just like, what am I watching right now?
Run, pass, punt. That's what
It's so, this side, that side. It's so polar opposites, and it's ridiculous. If you're going to be aggressive, be aggressive. That's the end of it. Tyler and I talked about it during Brewer season. Players getting thrown out at home plate. When you're aggressive all the time, you're aggressive all the time. You don't half-ass this shit.
Yeah.
If you're going to be aggressive, you be aggressive.
I'm with that. Consistently aggressive. I like that. I'm going to go back to Vinny Anthony. Now, Brandon, you brought it up, the deep ball being a potential vulnerability for Iowa. For me, and Jake brought this up when we were talking about Penn State, he's becoming a really legit wide receiver in this offense, not just a gadget player, not just a return man, not just a deep ball guy. He's becoming a legit piece of the offense. So I'm going to go back to Vinny Anthony for my X factor. Mike, I'm going to jump to you for the keys to victory. What is your key to victory against Iowa?
I think we got to stack up the tackles for loss this game. It's something I wish we would do a better job with this year, because I don't think overall we haven't had too much collectively. So with a team like Iowa, who is for sure going to try and establish themselves on the ground game with Caleb Johnson, I think if we can stack a couple tackles for losses here and there on some of their possessions, that's going to build up. And I will, at least for the time being, take my chances with them throwing the ball. I know Brandon Sullivan, he is an athlete. He's kind of similar to the Northwestern quarterback in terms of athleticism. He will run the ball. He has no problem doing that. But I do think if we can stack up some tackles for loss, put them in second and third and long, that's only going to work out well for us. So I'm looking for that. And keys to the game, just load up the box, man. Load up the box until they just got to throw. Put it in Rico Hallman's hands if we have to get the job done.
So I'm going to jump in because mine is kind of similar, and mine was to just keep getting stops. So I was only averaging 0.9 more points than Wisconsin. If Jaheim Thomas, Jake Chaney, and I'll toss in Leon Lowry can stay sharp, the defense will be in good shape. Jake, what's your key to victory?
I jumped around a few times. I was like, am I going to talk about Fickle? Maybe give us 2 halves of football. Was I going to talk about Locke? We need him to play a good game. He's throwing an interception in every single game he's played this year, at least one. But I landed on one. Gang tackle. We know Iowa's going to run the ball. We need more white helmets with a W on the side of it towards the football. Do not let him break loose. Do not let him feel comfortable at all. It's going to be really key. We need a gang tackle.
All right. So, Brandon, I'll go to you on the Iowa side. What is the Iowa key to victory to beating Wisconsin?
Win in the trenches is one. And my favorite, win the turnover battle. This is exactly. I said this last year. I said we were going to win the game if we win the turnover battle. I feel the team that makes the least amount of mistakes is going to win the ball game tomorrow or Saturday.
That tracks. That makes sense. All right, so Brandon, you are the guest here. We do 2 score predictions every week. We don't just make 1 score prediction. We do 2. Same with our record predictions, so we make those as well. So we do 2, one from the head and one from the heart. So we all give our scores from the head first. That's the more analytical score prediction, and then we do one from the heart. That's our more ideal, optimistic score prediction. So if you would like to go first, give us your score prediction from the head.
17-14 Hawks.
All right, Mike, what do you got?
I got 16-17 Iowa. I'm just looking at this, and now that I think about it, this is legitimately Braden Locke's first start in a very hostile environment. If you think about it, I don't know if that's going to boil well, coming off of last week. Just thinking about it, just who we've played, where we've played. This is going to be a different type of atmosphere, I feel like. A night game, crazy-ass fans. I'm interested to see how Braden Locke specifically adjusts to this. I don't know if it's going to end well. I do think it's going to be a very close game, but I still think Iowa at the end of the day might get us. So 16-17.
Jake, what do you got?
I have 20-17 Iowa for a lot of the same reasons. Nighttime, Iowa is a very loud, very passionate fan base. NBC game, they have one of the coolest traditions as well. The wave that makes me a little bit of a fan of Iowa, although I still hate them. I have to. It's just in my blood.
Yeah.
My brother actually used to live in Iowa, and he used to send me a bunch of Iowa Hawkeye gifts, and I'm like, get that shit. But yeah, 20-17. I think Iowa being the home team will be the difference this time around.
So I actually also put 20-17, but I put 20-17 Wisconsin.
Hey,
and say I'm drinking the Kool-Aid if you want. I really, like we talked about, all three phases of the defense against Penn State. Like, I feel like there's progress being made there, and all they have to do is just clean up the drops on offense, and there's so much more potential there.
Yeah.
Like I said, 4 drops contributing to 3 punts. If you can clean that up, that's 3 more drives where you have opportunities to get points. So I think Wisconsin can score 20 points on Iowa. All right, Brandon, back to you. Score prediction from the heart, the optimistic ideal for you.
28-21 Iowa.
All right. Mike, what do you got?
I got 20-17 Wisconsin. I think there's no way this is going to be more than like a 3 to 4 or 5 point differential no matter what happens. So, 20-17.
Jake?
I have 27-17 Wisconsin. Let's go, baby.
Oh, I have 27-16.
Oh.
So you're riding with the same numbers, huh?
Yeah.
Super close.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Brandon, we appreciate you hopping on with us. Mike, we appreciate you being on with us for Badgers as always. Brandon, we will see you later tonight. We are going to be joining their podcast a little bit after 8 o'clock tonight. So we are going to be the visitors on their show and the crossover. And Mike, we will see you Friday night for our Badger basketball primer. So we will talk to both of you guys later.
See you guys. Thank you.
Later, fellas.
Go Pack, go.
Yes, sir.
All right. So you and I, we have some business to attend to.
Yeah, we got some crybabies to spank.
What's that?
We got some crybabies to spank.
Oh, man. I kind of, there's a part of me that wants to, rush through the recaps so that we can get to these conversations that we're going to have.
Dude, I feel that so bad. I feel it so bad, dude.
So, let's rip them through. Let's rip them. So, Bucks 76ers, give me your takeaways.
All right, so you get into this one. Everybody's excited. There's a lot of talk in the offseason. Boom, Bucks basketball's back right in your face. Let's get it, right? I'm looking at usage rate this year. I'm looking at rebounding. I'm looking at bench production. Those are the 3 things I'm going to carry over to every single game. So as we go to – I'm going to start with rebounding. Rebounding, the Bucks had 46 rebounds, had 8 offensive rebounds and 38 defensive rebounds. Philadelphia has 49 total rebounds, 32 defense, and 17 offensive rebounds. So if you take away from their offensive rebounds from their total rebounds, they had 68% of the total offensive rebounds in this basketball game. That's too many. Yeah, that's too high of a number. Yeah. That's something that kind of hindered us at points last season as well. We just got to find a body. I understand that, and this is what I see. This doesn't mean that it's the law. This is what I see. I do believe that I have good basketball knowledge, but the thing that I see from this is the Bucks know that they struggle in transition. They're trying to get in transition a little early, and maybe instead of finding a body, the ball may bounce away from the player they think is going to get the rebound, and maybe it just bounces to their guy. Maybe their guy's hustling a little bit more. That's something that I see. I'm also going to talk about Giannis in this game. 25, 14, and 7 on 8 of 11 shooting. What else do I need to say? What else do I need to say? He's Giannis. He did his goddamn thing.
He's going to be first team All-NBA again.
100%. Talking about Prince, me and you were very high on this acquisition coming into this game, coming into the season. Prince, his debut couldn't have been better. 16, 5 and 3, 6 of 7 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3. When he was open, he shot it. He was not gun shy, and he was making it.
The only shot that he missed was the last one.
Yep. Tyler's gonna cover 3-point shooting, so I won't step on your toes in that area. But in terms of how he played, That's exactly how we need him to play. We need him to be able to switch on defense. That's also yours, so I'm just going to shut up. I'm not going to step on your toes. Now, I'm going to look at usage rate, right?
Okay. Yep.
So usage rate, I went percentage of teams' points, rebounds, assists, and turnovers. Because, and this is my explanation for this, those are the 4 biggest stats in basketball: rebounding, assists, turnovers, and scoring. If you were trying to teach somebody basketball, those are the 4 stats you're going to teach them what to watch: rebounding, assists, turnovers, points. I got to say it so people understand what I'm going for. Giannis had 20% of the team's points, and he took 11 shots. He had 1/5 of the points on 11 fucking shots, bro. He had 23% of the team's total rebounds and 38% of the team's offensive rebounds, 43% of the team's assists, and almost 11%, 10.7% of the team's turnovers. He has the ball in his hands a bunch. So Giannis and Dame and Chris, when he comes back, I wrote in here, these numbers are going to fluctuate. So right now, what I'm looking for with these numbers, I'm going to look to see what trends happen. What trends from usage rate leads to wins, what trends leads to losses. But numbers are going to change with differentiating opponents, different lineups. I got to be looking for some of these trends, and I wrote that in my note to watch for trends. Dame, you want Dame, Giannis, and when Chris comes back, to be the top 3 percentage of teams' points. They're going to be the top 3 percentage of teams' assists, and because they have the damn ball in their hands, they're going to be the top percentage of team turnovers. It is what it is. Now, looking at that, Bobby, who right now is 3rd in usage rate overall on the Bucks, he had 23% in this game, 23.5% of the Bucks turnovers in this game, and only 5.6% of the team's total rebounds. His job on the floor: score buckets, intimidate the opponent, talk shit to the crowd when you're on the road, hype the crowd up when you're at home, and grab rebounds. That's his job.
Yeah.
And he's pretty damn good at it. For people who want to discredit him, he does need a little bit of work on defense. Again, I'm not going to step on your toes. Brooke, Gary Trent Jr., they didn't score a lot in this game, but they were doing other things. Gary Trent really didn't get many looks because Prince was really doing Gary Trent's job, in my opinion. But Brooke rebounded. He had 19.4% of the team's assists, which was crazy to me. And he had a defensive rating of 103.9, so that's very good. He had a net rating of 21.7, which led the team. So I have no complaints about Brooke Lopez in this game. Overall, I think the Bucks did good. In terms of the bench scored 32 points, had 8 rebounds, 5 assists. They shot 14 of 26 from the field and 3 of 9 from 3. That will change when Prince goes to the bench. We'll get more scoring. We'll get more defense. We'll get better shots. This team is far from a finished product. So for people that want to bitch and complain 4 games into an 82-game season, get real with yourself.
We're going to have some of those conversations, and some of those trends, they're going to show up. I'm going to give one very specific one that correlates directly with the team's record so far.
Yep.
Looking at the team 3-point shooting, the Bucks started 2 for 11, made 11 of their next 15, and finished 16 for 37, 43.2%. Taurean Prince at one point hit back-to-back corner threes, part of a 12-2 run in the second quarter. And in the 5-out offense, there's going to be a lot of driving kick opportunities. That is what contributed to allowing Giannis to be so high in the assist game. Looking at it, I'm going to throw this out there as well with Brooke Lopez. So Brooke Lopez was 3 for 11 from the floor. Not ideal, but he still stuffed the stat sheet. He had 8 rebounds, 6 assists, which is wild for Brooke Lopez to have 6 assists, 6 blocks. And looking at contested shots, this is a number I'm probably going to have to hammer on. Contested shots. The Bucks contested 52 shots in this game. You want to take a stab at how many of them were from Brooke Lopez?
Oh, I think I remember. Wasn't it like 28?
24.
I knew it was in like the mid.
Almost half of the shots that the Bucks contested were by Brooke Lopez.
Dang.
And I constantly see, we need to get Brooke Lopez off the floor. Need to get Brooke Lopez off the floor. Brooke is old and slow. We need to get him off the floor. He's contesting almost 50% of your opponent's shots that the Bucks are contesting total. So he's pulling his weight.
He's doing his job. He's doing exactly what he's asked to do.
Looking at it, aside from Brooke Lopez, the 24 that he contested, Bobby Portis contested 9, and Pat Connaughton contested 5. And I'm going to give a thing about Pat Connaughton too, because right now people are just yapping.
Yep.
How I feel. We're going to get to this, and hopefully we can start to get through these recaps a little bit quicker because we need to have some talks. And they're going to be a little heated, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Brook Lopez, also 16 points assisted by setting screens.
Oh.
That's a stat that I can find. I can tell you how many screen assist points a guy had. Brook Lopez in this game, 16. 16 points scored off of Brook Lopez screens.
That's a great stat to pull up. I love that.
So you look at a box score and you see 3 for 11 and be like, oh, Brook Lopez sucks. You got to look deeper. You have to look deeper than just surface level. And I don't remember who has said it on our Packers shows. I think it actually might have been Brian's brother, Chris, that says the surface surfers who are only looking at the first group of information that they can see, which is a box score.
Yep.
James said, not going to lie, didn't know screen assists were recorded. Yeah, it's not just something that they give you a boost for on 2K. Yeah, that is a real thing that is tracked. And Brook Lopez did a good job of it in game 1.
Yeah.
Now, going to Damian Lillard, he is a really underrated slasher. I know I said this to you. Brett, welcome back. I know I said this to you during the game. He is an underrated slasher. He is very good at creating contact. That's why he shoots so many free throws.
Yeah.
It's not because he's getting bailed out by refs. He's very smart at drawing contact. Now, he finished with 30 points, 15 in the first half, 15 in the third quarter, didn't score in the fourth quarter, but he started 1 for 5 from the field, finished 9 for 19, made 6 out of 12 threes, and 6 out of 7 free throws. He added 9 rebounds and 6 assists. In the third quarter, he was 4 for 5 from the field, 4 for 4 from the three-point line, and 3 for 3 from the free throw line with 2 rebounds and 4 assists.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here we go. Another thing with Damian Lillard, and I'm going to come back to this with the Celtics game as well, did not have any steals in this game. No steals, but 5 deflections for Damian Lillard. So that tells me that even though he's not getting steals, that he's still active defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the last 2 things on the defensive side of the ball, Brett said he thought Trent did a good job of defending Maxey, and he's excited for when Middleton comes back because Prince will be more efficient from the bench. That is something that Jake brought up. Looking at Gary Trent versus Tyrese Maxey, he was very aggressive going over screens. The NBA didn't have the matchup stats for this game for some reason, unfortunately. But I also think that Pat Connaughton did a good job versus Kelly Oubre contesting his shots, even though Oubre is like 6 inches taller and able to kind of shoot over him and made some shots. Pat Connaughton, that doesn't mean that just because those shots were made that he wasn't doing a good job contesting them. Now, last thing I'm going to say on this game, looking at the defensive strategy, you brought up the offensive rebounds in the first half. I think what the strategy needs to be there is whoever the backside defender is, they need to rotate to the paint. That's all I need. That's all I need, because what you're doing, you're having Brook Lopez stepping up to ball handlers because you're having whoever's guarding the ball handler on a screen go over the screen. So you are going to be trailing the ball handler. So you need Brook Lopez to step up, or you're just going to get layupped and floated to death, which is fine if you want to do that. I don't know why people would want to do that. You have to live with some shot, and unfortunately, sometimes it's going to be forcing guys to shoot threes instead of giving up layups and floaters. So Brook Lopez is going to be the guy stepping up, or Bobby Portis is going to be the guy stepping up. What needs to happen is the guy from the corner needs to come down. And you are going to give up some corner threes. It's just going to happen. It's just something you have to live with. And it's then going to be the wing defender's job to rotate to the corner to try to contest that shot, to try to run them off that three-point line. You're not going to stop anything 100% of the time. People need to get that out of their minds. You're not going to stop offenses in the NBA from getting open shots 100% of the time. You're not going to sit and play one-on-one defense and say, oh, well, our 5 against their 5. They're not. It's not how it works. NBA coaching is too smart to be like, oh, well, they're just going to play a man defense, so we're just going to play one-on-one 5 times on the floor. That's not how it works. NBA offenses are trying to find ways to get their players open. It's not just going to be one-on-one 5 times playing the defense that way. It's not how it works. So let's go into the Bulls game. James said there's a such thing as great defense, better offense, and that's absolutely a thing. I say it a lot. Great offense beats great defense every time. Brett said it's the 3-point era. That's the thing people need to understand, and just jump to fire Doc. That's just a lazy thing to say, in my opinion. I think that's a scapegoat mentality where it's like, oh, if this one thing was different, then everything would be fixed. And it's not how that works either. So, Jake, let's go to the Bulls game. Let's keep running through these, and then let's have some conversations.
All right, so home opener for the Bucks obviously didn't go the way we wanted it to. Bulls ended up taking this one. But in terms of rebounding, Bucks had 47 rebounds, 8 offensive rebounds, and 39 defensive rebounds. The Bulls had 46 total rebounds, 9 offensive, and 37 defensive rebounds. So they did a better job keeping the Bulls off the offensive glass. Although the Bulls were making a lot of three-pointers, got a lot of three-point attempts off. So not a lot of opportunities for offensive rebounds, but they did a better job. So give them credit where it's due, right? Going to the bench had 28 points, 19 rebounds, and 6 assists. So can't really argue with that, honestly. They crashed the glass. That's something that I'm going to be talking about. They passed the ball. You're talking about guys that are playing minimal minutes, and they had 6 assists. So, I mean, that's a good job by them, right? The only person who doesn't play minimal minutes is obviously Bobby Portis. He's a very important player to our roster. But you're talking about other guys, that come off the bench. I mean, AJ Green, he's, sometimes he may play 10 minutes. Sometimes he may play a minute. So his minutes are sporadic. In terms of usage, Giannis and Dame had 53.9% of our total team points. That's a lot. That's okay, though, because we were scoring the ball. We just weren't playing enough defense. I believe that the Bulls kind of controlled the pace of this game, which, obviously leads to them getting a lot of open looks. I think they're going to be better without DeRozan, in my opinion, because DeRozan's kind of he's getting up there in age too, and he likes to play a little bit slower pace. I think the Bulls
are
better.
More of an ISO player too.
Yeah, so they're going to be better without him, even though he's still a really good player. Yep. Gary Trent Jr., Prince, and Bobby, if you add their total points to the point total, it's less than 1%. But if you add their point total together, it's about 25% of the total points. So it's not bad. I'm actually okay with that. If they keep that average,
those numbers specifically give me a little bit of hope for when Middleton's back, that he's giving you 18 to 20. Bucks might just be fine.
Yeah, and that was my point too. Is if they can give you that consistent basis, Gary Trent needs to shoot the ball better. Me and you have totally agreed on that. We talked about that outside of the show. If Gary Trent is shooting the ball better, Prince gives you what he's going to give you. He's going to fluctuate in points. He's not known as a scorer. He's known as a kind of a Swiss Army knife player. Bobby Portis does his thing. He may give you a little shoulder jiggle every once in a while. He gives you some swag. He gives you some yelling. If he can have big scoring games as well. He could burst. We all know that. He can get very hot. He's like a microwave. Yep. Another 2K reference, by the way. But if Chris Middleton just does Chris Middleton things, I think this Bucks offense is going to be absolutely fine. So Giannis and Dame having 53.9% of the offense, I think they were just getting good looks, honestly. Giannis was eating. Dame was doing his thing, and he was filling in where he needs to. I think the Dame and Giannis collaboration looks much better so far in year 2, in my opinion, than it did in year 1.
Yep.
They had their moments in year 1, but year 2, they look so much more smooth. It's only going to get better the more games they play together, obviously. Giannis had 23.8% of the assists, and Dame had 29.6% of the assists. So they were really dominating the Bulls, dominating the ball as they should. But other than that, I don't have any complaints other than the Bucks really just getting outpaced by the Bulls. The Bulls played at a faster pace, and that hurt the Bucks. That was the same thing last year with the Pacers because they play such an insane pace too.
Right, and I think their youth is a factor there.
Yep.
Looking at the Bucks, their 3-point shooting as a team, 13 for 40. That's 32.5%. Obviously not ideal. They were 2 for 8 in the third quarter and 3 for 11 in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
5 for 19 in the second half, not ideal. Dame was 3 for 12. Brooke was 1 for 6. Pat was 1 for 5. AJ Green was the spark plug in that department, shooting 3 for 4 on threes. Brett said he doesn't know why people expect Alon Wright to score so much. That's not why we got him. We got him for the defense. That's one of those things, Brett, where you can't expect people to look at a box score and see not a lot of points in the point column and then be like, oh, what does this guy do? Unfortunately, that's just how being a casual fan works. We are hoping to foster fewer casual fans with what we do. But looking at the turnovers, nothing kills momentum more or hurts your chances of making a comeback than turnovers. The Bucks had 14, which is not an insurmountable number of turnovers. 8 of them came in the second half, 4 in the third quarter, 4 in the fourth quarter. Again, not an ideal scenario, but not an insurmountable number of turnovers.
Yep.
Looking defensively, this is where I had the problem this game was defense. The Bulls took 96 shots.
Yeah.
Only 34 were contested.
Oh.
That is a problem. That's 35.4% of the Bulls' shots that were contested. That number needs to change. Brett said it's kind of hard when White was pulling a Pritchard. Yeah, it is what it is. Again, I'm going to go back to the paint defense. There's too much complaining about Brook Lopez on defense. Like I said, not enough understanding of his role, which is to contest shots and block shots. His job is not to rebound. That's not his job. It's not what the team has asked him to do since he signed here. He's never been asked to be a big rebounder.
Yeah,
He's brought here to block shots.
That's Giannis, really. Giannis is the guy that cleans the defensive boards.
And Bobby Portis.
Yep.
And I'll throw Chris Middleton in there.
Yeah, Middleton's good at it.
Rated rebounder. I mean, I just brought up Damian Lillard in game 1 had 9 rebounds. Brook Lopez's job is to contest shots, and if he has the opportunity to, he's going to box guys out and let his guards/ball handlers grab the rebounds to start transition faster. We've talked about this for years on this show.
Yeah, we're going on year 3 of talking about that.
I mean, years of us saying this, and people still don't get it. And unfortunately, it's because not enough people watch our show to understand why Brook Lopez doesn't have a high rebound total.
Yeah.
Now, if you want Brook Lopez to just stay attached to his man so he can get rebounds, that's fine. But like I said, when I'm talking about the paint defense against the 76ers, we are going to get floated in layups to death if Brook Lopez isn't patrolling the paint, contesting shots. So if you want Brook Lopez to have high rebounds, you can just give up layups, and then he'll get some more rebounds if the occasional NBA player misses a layup.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with the Bulls game. Not some great catastrophe. Obviously not ideal to lose that game, but people I think are taking a lot of this first week of the season way too personally, and it continues with the Nets game. And I'm just going to go and give my thoughts because I don't have a lot of takeaways from this because it's not that serious. It really isn't. Obviously, again, you don't want to be losing games, but man, people are attaching way too much importance to a small sample size. I'm going to throw this out there. The Nets took the Nuggets to overtime last night. The Nuggets were losing to double digits for most of that game. So it's not like, the Nets are just this team that should just be beaten every time they play on the court. Like, that's the Pistons. But the Nets, they have a couple decent players. And a guy like Cam Thomas, who, again, is the definition of a microwave. The next time the Bucks play the Nets, he'll probably go like 2 for 13 or 7 for 25 or something like that.
Yeah. And 3 of them will be 3, so they'll have a decent stat line.
Yeah. Cam Johnson, I like his game. But looking at the Bucks, the team 3-point shooting, 10 for 33. That's 30.3%. Of the 10 that were made, 9 of them were assisted. So that is good. That does mean that they are creating shots for each other. I do like that part of it. Offensively, 18 turnovers. That's too many.
Yeah.
4 by Giannis, 4 by Dame. I will level a little bit early in the season on the subject of team turnovers because they are playing in a new offensive system.
That's fair.
That is something I think not enough people are giving any sort of contextual credit for, is that the Bucks are playing in a new offensive system under Doc Rivers, and people are just like, nope, Doc's a bad coach. Got to fire him. Can't let this new system thing be costing us games in October when championships are won and lost. We got a new defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers, and we talked about it through the first 4 games of the Packers season, which accounts for about 25% of their season of, hey, they're in a new system. We're going to give them a little bit of time to figure it out, even though it's a lot of the same players. Why the fuck are we not doing the same thing for the Bucks, who are also 4 games into their season? This is only game 3, which is a much smaller percentage of their season. and we're calling for the coach to be fired just because you don't like his playoff record.
Yeah, because the media told you.
We haven't even gotten to the perspective reset part of this yet. Defensive matchups. Seeing a lot of complaining about Damian Lillard's defense. Against the Nets, they were 2 for 6 against Damian Lillard, including 0 for 3 on the three-point line. So, not a huge problem there.
Yeah.
The Nets versus Pat Connaughton, another guy who's a popular topic of conversation that I'm going to say something about as well. The Nets were 3 for 9 against Pat Connaughton, 33%, 0 for 2 from the three-point line. The Nets were targeting one player. It was Bobby Portis.
Yeah, it was.
The Nets were 8 for 21 against Bobby Portis from the field. That is a 38.1% field goal shooting, which is not good. But they were 45.5% from the three-point line against Bobby Portis. That hurts.
Yep.
Bobby Portis, unfortunately, was a minus 21 in this game. And that's just kind of where we're living right now. It's too early in the season to be like, Bobby needs to be traded. Like, I understand that those thoughts are going to be creeping in, but it's too early. So I'm going to say that now. Like, I understand why people are wanting to move on from Bobby Portis because of the defensive part of it, but it's still too early. It's still way too early to be making season-long judgments based on the third game of the season.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
The last thing I want to say, Brook Lopez did have a good game this game. He was 6 for 9 from the field, 3 for 5 on threes. He had 15 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 steals. He's not this big problem that people are making him out to be. So what were your thoughts on the Nets game?
I'm going to hold that about Brook. Okay, so my thoughts on the Brooklyn game is the Bucks' heads were not in the game. Like from the tip to the end of the game, it just honestly felt like the Bucks had the feeling like they were just happy to be there, and they were looking forward to the next game against the Celtics. That's honestly what it felt like to me. And I know that may sound a little harsh, but that's what I thought I looked at. In terms of rebounding, Bucks had 43 rebounds, 36 defensive, and 7 offensive rebounds. Brooklyn had 47 total rebounds, 35 defensive, and 12 offensive rebounds. So they seem to be giving up around 10 per game, which if you're going to give up 10 per game, you got to grab 10 per game yourself, which they're not. Honestly, I'm not too upset if they give up 10 per game. Yeah, sometimes a long three-point shot is going to bounce back to you anyways. So what are they supposed to do about that?
Every time, like a guy like Claxton too, like every time that a shot misses and he tips it, like if he tries to do a tip shot, that counts as an offensive rebound. Like stuff like that. Like that's not a back-breaking number. That's just if we're trying to come up with realistic numbers that we're okay with. Same with turnovers. Obviously, I want the turnovers to be 0.
Yeah.
But if we're talking a realistic target, I'd like the Bucks to be between 12 and 14.
Yeah,
somewhere in there is a number I can stomach.
I was gonna say 10 to 14 offensive rebounds per game is probably average in the NBA. I didn't look.
Probably fine. That's fine.
Yeah, that's not an outrageous number.
Yeah.
I will say that some of the offensive rebounds may have been more 50-50 balls, and it kind of felt like Brooklyn wanted it a little bit more. That's kind of where I go back to the mindset of maybe the Bucks didn't really want to be in this game. They weren't looking forward to playing the Nets. They were looking forward to playing in Boston, which is crazy that I think they play their next game's on the road tomorrow too, right?
Yeah, so they're at Memphis tomorrow.
Yeah, so like 4 of their first 5 games on the road, which is wild.
Oh, it's one of those things where, people don't bring up that they've played 1 game at home so far this season.
Yeah.
No, part of the coach.
But get to the bench. The bench had 32 points, 16 rebounds, and 6 assists. Again, can't complain about that. You're going to add Prince to that as soon as Middleton comes back, and then the bench numbers are going to look fantastic. This team is much deeper than it was last year, so very excited about that. In terms of usage rate, Damian Giannis had 42% of the team's points. They had over 75%. I love our little leprechaun. No, I don't like that guy. They had 75% of the team assists, little over 30% of the team's turnovers, but again, they have the ball a ton. Bobby Portis, outside of defense, honestly, Bobby had a good game, but he was getting absolutely abused on the defensive end. He did play a good offensive game. He ended with 16, 10, and 2, so I mean, that's not too bad on offense, but the three-point line was killing him. And then rebounds. This is one of those games, and I know Brooks not known as a rebounder. This is one of those games where Claxton was doing a lot of those tip-out rebounds. I think Brooks should have maybe went for a couple more rebounds instead of trying to box out, in my opinion. This might have been one of those ones where you make an adjustment and you say, okay, instead of just trying to box him out, I'm going to go grab the fucking thing, which could have helped a lot since the Bucks lost this one 115 to 102. Think of Brook grabs 4 or 5 more rebounds in the middle of that game when that game was still winnable instead of trying to box him out and allowing him to just jump and tip the ball. Might have made a difference. Might have went on a run. I'm not trying to sound like I'm harping on him. I'm just offering constructive criticism.
I can throw out a different, type of adjustment that could be made too. And this is just me thinking as a big man, like how I play basketball. If I have a guy that I'm guarding, because I'm 6'6", so like I'm almost always guarding the other team's biggest player.
Yeah.
If that's what's happening, that a guy is more athletic than me and he's just trying to tip the ball out to his teammates, I'm going to start positioning myself to where my box out isn't going to put him anywhere in the court of play.
Yeah.
I'm going to start boxing him out of bounds.
Yep.
That would be my adjustment. I would be like, hey, Brooke, front him when the ball goes up, box him out of bounds.
Yeah.
So just a thought.
Yep.
Anything else you want to say on the Nets game?
Just lack of energy. That's all I got.
All right. Let's go to Bucks Celtics. Kind of a tale of two halves games. James is probably excited to hear us talk about this one. He said he loves their little leprechaun, Peyton Pritchard. He's annoying, but I respect him at least. I respect Peyton Pritchard. I respect the mentality that it takes to be a backup and to come in with energy.
Yeah.
Like Peyton Pritchard's annoying, but I respect him. For any Bucks fans to be calling him garbage or saying that he's only good against the Bucks, he's not only good against the Bucks.
He's a good player.
Like you watch pregame, postgame shows, they will talk about Peyton Pritchard and they respect him. I respect him. He's annoying, and like if he was on our team, I'd be really excited. But he's Boston's annoying guy.
Yep.
Pacers have one too, TJ McConnell. If the Bucks had him, I'd be happy, but he's their player and he's annoying.
Yep.
But I respect him. So, what stood out to you from Monday night against the Celtics?
The energy was better, and you saying that it was a tale of two halves, the Bucks got gassed second half of back-to-back. I think if this was the first game of the back-to-back, I'm going to be honest, I think the Bucks win this game with the energy level they were playing with. I think they literally just got gassed.
And I would honestly throw it out there. Like, we've seen Giannis listed on the injury report. If it was Celtics and then Nets, I could see Giannis sitting out the Nets game.
Yep, 100%. Which I wish the NBA would have done for us. I wish they would have gave us Celtics first before the Nets. But, we're Milwaukee, so we don't get to play on NBA Christmas Day, even though we have a top 3 NBA player. But, we're going to show Embiid. We're going to show Embiid. Jesus Christ. That's a whole different conversation.
No, let's play Boston on the second night of a back-to-back and then have 3 nights off until our next game.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense to me. So going to rebounding, the Bucks did a tremendous job, only giving them 4 offensive rebounds to Boston. They had 38 rebounds total. Bucks had 43, 35 defensive rebounds for the Bucks. In terms of the bench had 19, 13, and 3. When you look at that, Bobby only had 4 and 6 of that. So Bobby really didn't make an impact offensively, but he was a little bit better defensively, I will say. He played a little bit better positionally. I'm not saying he got a bunch of stops. Also, the next time that I watch the Bucks and Celtics, if I see Jason Tatum run his fucking shoulder into somebody and then fall to the ground and cry, I'm going to lose my shit. James, you have to admit it, dude. Oh, my God, dude. Like, you just tried to barrel over him, and it didn't work.
And then the other 50% of his plays, he's really soft.
Brown is by far the best player. It's not even a fucking debate for me, dude, honestly.
We were kind of throwing that out last season.
Yeah.
And obviously it came true during the playoffs because he won the finals MVP, but I think everybody's kind of catching on to it now.
Yeah, he's by far their best player.
If you had to trade one of them, you're trading Tatum.
Yep. I think it's easier to build around Brown than it is Tatum, and that's where I kind of get the idea that he's the best player.
And
you can build around Tatum.
Defensively, the better player, it's also Brown. James said Tatum pissed me off with the dumb tech. I did like seeing Joe get animated though.
Yeah, he doesn't really show a lot of emotion, Joe Mazzulla. He doesn't really have to because the freaking Celtics hit 17 3-pointers a game and they're always winning. So good for him, I guess. But in terms of usage, Giannis and Dame had 58.2% of the points. Dame was getting some good-ass looks. Gary Trent Jr., less than 1% of the team's total points. Prince, Bobby, and Gary together at 15.7% of the scoring. That number needs to get closer to the 20%. I'd like those three to hold and carry 1/5 of the team scoring. I think that's not an outrageous goal.
That's reasonable for sure.
Brooke had 12% of the scoring, and he had 9% of the rebounds, so he was better rebounding this game than he was against the Nets. So I applaud him for that. Brooke actually had a really nice game. I think the Bucks have an opportunity, and we saw a little bit of Brooklyn Brooke. I think the Bucks have a really nice high-low game. Really nice high-low game. That's something that, you go back 2 years when Giannis got injured against the Heat, where they were kind of abusing that in one of the games. And I think that's something that should become a trend. One, you get to conserve Giannis's energy. Two, you keep Brooke engaged in the game. He gets touches on offense. He's still always going to give you the effort on defense. And three, you get to kind of control the pace that way, right? Now, if you want to push it, you put your young guys in and you push the damn ball. But I really like seeing
get nuts. I want to jump in on this subject specifically.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the paint, because I have it written down. And I'm not saying that we need to start Bobby Portis, but maybe to play Brooke Lopez with the second unit a little bit and kind of feature him on offense.
Dude, he could absolutely still carry the second unit.
And what I really love about it is you can almost split, like have Dame and Giannis stay in together a little bit more and have Chris and Brooke stay in a little bit together more. And obviously you're going to mix the four together.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of when Giannis is not on the floor, of Brooke being on the floor and going to him offensively. Because when Giannis is on the floor with Brooke Lopez, something that we saw a little bit of on Monday night, it made it a little bit easier for the Celtics to double down.
Yep.
Because you're not afraid of Giannis shooting the three. He was 0 for 2 against the Celtics. You're not afraid of Andre Jackson Jr. shooting the three. He was 0 for 1. Those three shots, the Boston Celtics are happy that we shot them.
I was a little upset that we shot them. Not gonna lie.
So
and two of them were consecutive.
Yeah. And it's like we can get better shots than that.
Mm-hmm.
And the better shots would be having, say Damian Lillard, AJ Green, Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, and Brooke Lopez on the floor, where you have four guys on the floor that if the ball goes into the post, you don't want to get too far away from those guys.
Yeah, you
let Brooke go to work.
And you can use Brooke as a screener for Chris. Chris can shoot the mid-range.
Exactly.
I maybe would favor Dame playing a little bit more of Brooke since that pick and roll has been so good. And then
I'm never going to say no to Damian Lillard being on the floor.
And then you can fluctuate the minutes with Middleton and Dame a little bit to let Chris have a little bit more time with Giannis since that connection is always so good. So, I mean, that's just a way that you can split up the minutes. But, yeah, I love seeing Brooklyn Brooke, dude. He absolutely dominates on there. He still has
since he's had a slow start to the three-point shooting this season.
Yeah. Again, the three-pointer should be a cherry on top. It shouldn't be his main attribute. He's 300 fucking pounds. Put his ass down there.
James said he does like that Tatum and Brown aren't letting it divide them, that's a good thing. Brett said he loves the 30-plus minutes we gave efforts on both sides to the Celtics. Shows we can run with them. Celtics game is important. Show how Middleton is. Still my hate for Pritchard grows. And it's unfortunate, too. We didn't have Chris Middleton, the Boston Celtics killer.
I'll say this. I think Bucks Celtics will be a lot closer this year. The Celtics are a lot like the 49ers in some ways, where they're maybe a year or two away from being really, really old and really, really not being able to afford their players. Pritchard's probably going to get paid from somebody. I don't even know his contract. He's going to get paid from somebody. Al Horford's 38. When he's gone, that's going to hurt them. And Drew Holiday isn't getting any younger. When he leaves, it's going to be tough for them. They're going to go through a little mini rebuild. They're still going to have Tatum and Brown, but they're going to have a lot of money that they're going to have to allocate other places.
Yeah. All right. Did you have any other takeaways from the Celtics game?
No.
Okay. So team 3-point shooting, my things are you just have to make the open ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's what has to be done. The second half, the Bucks were 3 for 12 on threes. They finished 8 for 31. That's 25.8%. You want to know a number that correlates directly to the way the Bucks have played so far this season? It's the 3-point shooting. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, we have to figure this out. We have to figure this out. What's wrong with the Bucks?" Everybody's trying so hard to make it seem like they know ball, and now it's a simple thing: 3-point shooting. Against the 76ers, they shot over 40%. They won. The other 3 games, they've been below 35%, and they've lost those 3 games. Everybody's trying so hard to make it seem like if they were in John Horst's shoes, they'd have all the answers. Sometimes it is just as simple.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the careers of guys like Damian Lillard, Gary Trent Jr., they are good career 3-point shooters. That's why I'm not worried. Look at the defensive matchups. The Bucks held Tatum to 6 of 16 shooting, 1 for 8 on threes. Tatum was 1 for 6 against Gary Trent Jr. You look at Derek White. He was 5 for 13 from the floor, 3 for 10 on threes, and he was 2 for 10 overall against Pat Connaughton, Damian Lillard, Gary Trent, Taurean Prince, and Brook Lopez. Defense can be played by this Bucks team. Looking at turnovers, 16 is still a little high. Like I said, 12, 13, 14 is kind of my aim. Boston did turn those 16 turnovers into 20 points, though. The Bucks did have 19 points off turnovers on Boston's 12 turnovers, so the Bucks were still efficient in that area as well. Bobby Portis is another good one too. Defensive improvements, they just have to be better in transition. Boston had 26 fast break points. That's just one of those areas where the Bucks just have to be better. That was kind of a thing we talked about a little bit last year as well. That was a problem under Griffin. It's not just a Doc Rivers thing. It was a problem under Griffin. It's something that you just need to fix.
Yeah.
Other than that, we need to just have a quick conversation to have a perspective reset. So the Bucks play tomorrow at Memphis, Saturday against the Cavaliers, and Monday at the Cavaliers. Now we need to have a couple conversations here. First one is quit bitching about Pat Connaughton. He is not the problem. He has played 21, 17, 17, and 15 minutes. Saying Pat Connaughton is the problem is a lazy thing because you didn't like that he had a down year last year. Complaining about a guy who's averaging about 17 and a half minutes makes you look really dumb. You're talking like the 8th guy coming off the bench. He is not this overarching problem that Bucks fans are trying to make him out to be.
Yep.
And I'm not even speaking from a place of defending Pat Connaughton because I like him. He is a hustle guy. He is a glue guy. He's a Swiss Army knife that I've described him as. He's a first to the floor type player. But it makes you look dumb if you're trying to make the 17 and a half minute average wing out to be the scapegoat of what needs to be done with the Bucks. Gonna start there. Looking around the league, other teams, the Bucks started 1-3. Obviously not ideal. Pacers started 1-2. Knicks started 1-2. 76ers started 1-2. Nuggets started 1-2. Kings started 1-2. Shit happens. I know I said this before in a really sarcastic tone. Championships are not won and lost in October. Brett said the Pacers are 1-3 now. Thank you. I did not update this after I finished my notes yesterday. Last thing I'm going to say, and you can give me your thoughts. We are 4 games into an 82-game season. And there is a large portion of the fan base that has already written the entire season story. Now, let me ask you this question. We are 4.9% into the season. Is there a single thing in your life where you would project the other 95% of what is going to happen based on the 5% that has been observed?
No.
Of course not. So can we stop doing it for the Bucks?
It's a good idea. All right. Mine's going to be real short and sweet. I don't want to be too mean. I think people have still not gotten over what happened last year. That's really what I think happened. I think people are still tied to Bobby Portis from last year. I think people are still tied to Pat Connaughton from last year. I think people are still tied to Brook Lopez from last year. I think
would
there's
throw
still
Giannis in there about him not being available in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's fair. And the thing that's not helping it is, NBA pages who have tons of followers are sharing things like Bucks record under Griffin, Bucks record with Doc Rivers, blah, blah, blah.
Should the Bucks be worried that 1-3?
Shut up, dude. Like, shut the fuck up.
Stop listening to
It's just
Kendrick
so
Perkins.
stupid. And yeah, seriously, dude. They extended Kendrick Perkins, dude. Let's look
Zach
at the state
Lowe.
of ESPN. Yeah, that's
They
bad.
kept
And
Kendrick
Zach
Perkins
Lowe
and
knows
let
his
Zach
shit.
Lowe go.
Yeah, that's terrible. Sorry, I'm going to say, that was a Stephen A. Smith calling, in my opinion. Stephen A. Smith said, you give my brother who I know from when he played in the league, give my brother his money. Zach Lowe, you're expendable. I'll just take over Zach Lowe's segment. That's what I think really happened. But in terms of overreacting, I'm not going to. I actually wrote down a percentage too because I was going to talk about that. So good job by you. Dude, we got 95% of the season to go. I'm gonna sit my happy ass down on my couch and I'm gonna watch Giannis dunk on some motherfuckers. I'm gonna watch Damian Lillard pull up from 40 feet. I'm gonna watch him tap his wrist. I'm gonna watch Chris Middleton be a goddamn maestro from the mid-range. I'm gonna enjoy my goddamn Buck season. I'm not gonna listen to everybody bitch and complain about everything. That's all I gotta say. Let's just enjoy it.
The percentage, if we were to talk about it in like an NFL season perspective, that would be like complaining that the season is over like 7 minutes into the second quarter of the first game.
Which I'm not gonna lie, I 100% guarantee somebody has done that.
All right. We will be back again next week. Well, Jake and Mike will be. I won't be. Again, my wife's having surgery next week, so I will be off next week. But Jake's going to have my notes, so my thoughts will be here just coming from Jake. He will be reading them. Other than that, relax a little bit. We have a long haul to go yet. It's still October. We got a long way to go. So, Brett, thanks for hopping in. Jake, I will see you tonight when we are on the Hawkaholics podcast. Other than that, relax, enjoy the season a little bit, learn some more basketball, and we will be back every Wednesday.
Go Bucks.